All right. So here I have some different textures. So here I have grass and I have leaves. They are both green. However, do grass and leaves look the same? No. So what I can do, and I can use this as an example, grass, I'm going to paint individual blades with short vertical lines versus leaves, I'm going to do dabs. Notice, are these all the same shade of green? No, there's different shades. There's tints, which are lighter, and shades, which are darker. So I'm going to always, you want to start with the shade first. How do I make green darker? There's actually two ways to make green darker. Does anyone know one way to make green darker? Yes. I can add black. What is another way I can also make it a little darker? Yes. Add blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of black. I'm going to wash my brush. I wipe it on the sponge. And then I'm going to add some blue to make a darker green. So I have my shade. Now I'm going to leave that here. I'm going to take the smaller brush. I'm going to dip the tip. And I'm just going to paint short little lines like this to paint the grass. So I do the shade first. And I can do it for the grass here. I'm doing short little lines because grass, again, you want to paint like you're the individual blades of grass. All right. Now I have the shade. I now need to make there's again two ways I can make the green lighter. What's one way I can make the green lighter? Yeah. I can add white. What's another color I can add to the green to make it lighter? Yellow. Okay, thank you. So I'm washing my brush, wiping it. I'm going to add yellow. All right, so now I have my tint and my shade. I'm going to get, again, my small brush. So I use the bigger brush to scoop and mix. I'm now using the smaller brush to add, yeah, now I'm going to add more little short lines to my grass to make that more the texture of grass. So short lines straight up and down. All right, so that now looks more like grass. Now to make the texture of leaves, I'm gonna do dabs, like an individual leaf. So again, you start with the shade first. So dark to light, you'll always be right. So do the darker color. So I'm just gonna take my brush and I'm just going to dab it like this. Now, if I also think about the form and light, if it's trees outside, the light comes from what direction? And is the sun up high or down low? Up high. So I'm going to do more. I'm going to do less dark at the top and more dark dabs at the bottom. I'm going to wash my brush, wipe it. Now I'm going to use the tint and I'm going to do lighter dabs at the top to kind of dab it. Oops, wrong one. And I'm going to start to add more dabs at the top to make that look more like leaves. Okay, so you can see the difference between the two textures. Next, if I wanted to do sand, the same thing. I'm going to make a shade and a tint. So this is already the color. So I can just use the brown as is to make the shade first. What kind of paint mark do you think I would make for sand? A dot. So I'm going to do lots of little tiny dots for the sand. I'm going to do it with the darker color first. All right, so I'm just dabbing. You might have to get a lot of paint because you don't want to push down hard. So just a lot of paint just on the tip of the brush. I'm just doing small, teeny tiny little dots with the darker color first. And then I'm gonna go on top to make the tint. So what could I add to this sand color here to make it lighter? White. So I'm gonna take my brush. I'm gonna use my bigger brush to scoop my paint. I'm going to take a big scoop of white, mix it here to get a lighter sand color. I'm going to dip the tip, and now I'm adding a different texture, the dots on top. The sand, the more dots you add, the more sand-like it will look. So, of course, I'm doing this fast. You would take your time to do many, many more dots. And you can also do it in different colors. Here's another example I painted. So you can see how I had many different dots kind of overlapping to make that sand color. With water, what kind of paint mark would I do to make water, make it look like water? What kind? Yes, Ben? So what kind of line? Okay, and what kind, when you think of waves, what kind of lines do you think? Or water, I just said it. So wavy lines. So you would use wavy lines. Again, I'm going to wash my brush. This is already this color, so I can just use plain blue for my shade first, because you always use the darker color first. I'm going to paint dark blue wavy lines first, and then I'm going to make this blue lighter. Again, wash my brush, clean it, add white, and to make my light blue lighter here. Yeah. Yeah. And then now I can kind of put the white lighter lines on top, and it'll start to look more like water by painting those wavy lines on top and leaving some of the darker blues below. So now I have more of that texture of water. What about carpet? Anyone think they know? How can you make the texture of carpet? Yes. Yeah. How would you describe the texture of carpet if you were feeling it? Fuzzy. So I'm going to show you how to make a fuzzy texture. So here's the gray. I'm going to add black to make this gray darker. And I'm going to use the big brush, not the small brush. And I'm going to put my brush straight up and down. So it's a point, and I'm just going to dab it like this. And notice how it looks fuzzy. You see how it starts to look fuzzy? So I'm going to do the dark color first. And this is also something you can do for fur, is just to kind of dab it. I'm going to wash that. Now I'm going to make this other gray lighter, add white, because I did the shade first. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to dab, and I'm going to do the lighter color on top, and it's going to look like that fuzzy texture of carpet. All right. Wood floors. How could I do wood floors? Lines. So I would first do a shade. So let me add black to make the brown darker. Okay. And if I'm going to do planks of wood, I'm going to want to do that kind of line, horizontal line first. And then I'm going to do a series of horizontal lines. And then I'm going to do some staggered vertical lines to show where the planks end. Now, if I look at the table here and your tables, this is a wood grain texture. So on top of this, I'm going to now kind of do the kind of lines to kind of look like the texture that's on the surface of the table. I wash my brush, I add white to brown to make a brown, and then I go on top and I kind of do that same light line texture on top of the wood here. All right, and then the last two, the clouds and the sun, are the trickiest because you have to do this while the paint is wet. So I know I already used this blue, but in order for this to work, I need to actually paint this part here. If I want a cloud here, I'm going to paint this blue. And while this is wet, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the carpet texture with just white. So I painted that blue. It's wet. Now I take my brush, my big brush, clean it, dip it in white, and I'm just going to go like this, like I did with the carpet, and it's going to make the cloud look fuzzy. Okay. Then I can add a little more white on top, on the top part of the cloud, and kind of add that and a little bit more. Okay. And it's going to start to look like a fuzzy cloud. Okay. The sun is actually, and it's during the daytime, if you were to look at the sun, can you stare at the sun in the day? No, you actually can't because it would hurt your eyes. So during the day, the sun gives off white light. So I'm going to paint this blue around, and then I'm going to wash it, and I'm going to paint the sun white. If you're doing a sun in the middle of the day. Yeah. So I'm painting this. Now I'm going to take my little brush, and I'm going to again dip it in the white. And to paint a ray, I'm going to go from the sun out, and I'm going to kind of start to paint the rays of light kind of coming out to around into the sky around it. And then I can wash this and then go back with the white and kind of touch this up a little bit more. So you have to do this with white. If I did this with yellow, what would happen? It would turn green, right? So the sun actually in the day, white light, if it's a sunrise or sunset, that's when you can see the sun, and that's when it does look yellow and orange. So that's why you think the sun's always yellow and orange, because that's when you can actually look at it. So just thinking about that, okay? So here are some of the different textures. Here's another version I did where I took more time with it, so you can see each one. So today, as you're painting your background, you are going to focus on adding textures to your background, okay? So if you're painting grass or the sky or clouds, that is what you're working on, okay? Again, you're only painting your background today. You're not painting your clothes, your skin, your hair. I'll show you how to do that next week, okay? All right, if you're at Orange Table, you are art associates. Can you go pass out artwork? They're at your